For my American mythology exhibit, I chose to look at the discrepancies between the telling of American history and the realities, as seen through art. My background as a history and political science major helped to inform my approach to the exhibition. I first decided on the subsections of the exhibit, choosing topics which I felt best describe the double-sided history of America. I chose contrasting images, one reflecting America positively and one negatively, to show the disparity of myth and reality. Myth in this sense doesn't mean falsehood, but rather an exaggerated traditional narrative or a half-truth. Throughout this presentation, I have incorporated my object and section labels to imitate my exhibition virtually as best I can. My thesis can be summed up in my introduction panel, which reads, "The history of America has known daring explorations, triumphs of justice, advancements in industry, and great glory. But it has also seen devastating displacements, rampant discrimination, epidemics of poverty, and brutality in war." The exhibition offers a look into the negative and often veiled side of our nation's proudest endeavors. The exhibition starts on the left wall with exploration and displacement. Standing tall and proud, the Rocky Mountains depicted here came to represent the unknown in early American exploration. Exploration itself was a cardinal sign of bravery and curiosity, two traits which Americans believe exemplify their spirit. On the other side, a woman toils in a desert field under the New Deal's resettlement administration. The relocation to a marginal space at the will of the government reminds us of the earlier displacements forced on Native Americans. The primary difference is that in those earlier displacements, Native Americans did not have a choice. The West represented hard work, simplicity, and a new chance at life, but the land was already inhabited. Before Europeans touched American soil, there were estimated to be several million indigenous peoples in North America. By the 1890s, only 250,000 remained. Forced to assimilate, they were encouraged to pray to a god who was not their own and praise ideals which had displaced them. Moving to the back wall of the exhibition space, the impersonal image on the left shows ironworkers constructing a building taller than those in the background, signifying the ever-upward advancement of industry. Perhaps in reference to their expendability, they are faceless figures focused only on progress. The work entitled State of Mind depicts a woman from the American Midwest during the Dust Bowl, which damaged the agriculture and fertility of the region, longingly staring at something out of the viewer's perspective. The next two images in the exhibit offer a realistic view of industry and poverty. Confident and patriotic, this American woman gardens to aid the domestic war effort. Work is portrayed as a direct result of love for her country, and everyone has a part to play in the development of the nation. This was a propagandistic image used by the Overseas Picture Division in 1944. The second photo is subtitled, "Children in the Bedroom of Their Home." Their mother has tuberculosis, their father works in the Works Progress Administration. We see two children living in squalor in 1938, only a few years before Victory Gardening. Unclean and with only cereal boxes as wallpaper, the children represent the unfortunate circumstance that industry is the progenitor of poverty. The United States' ascension to the position of a superpower is mainly the result of its rapid industrialization. The American worker is portrayed in popular culture as hardworking, strong, industrious, and patriotic. But underneath our nation's narrative lies the backbreaking work of the poor, the weak, and the young. The exploitation of labor has left a tangible mark on America, creating a stark economic disparity that remains evident today. Entering the gallery space, these two exceptionally large images on the opposite wall would be the first to catch your eye. The celebratory image depicts the Statue of Liberty being as unmoving and strong as the virtues associated with her. People rally around her in the image as a symbol of freedom and acceptance for everyone. The alternative image was created in the 1960s. It depicts incarceration reminiscent of slavery, illustrating the idea that fair and equal justice for all is not a virtue America can boast. Rather, we are repeating our past indiscretions with a new vigor and veiled strategies. The eternal words, "all men are created equal," have come to signify equality and justice as cardinal virtues embedded in our nation's founding, but the reality is far different. Still today, people of color are more likely to experience poverty, harsher punitive sentences, more obstacles in voting, and substandard education. In place of justice, there's often discrimination caused by a system of privileges for some and disadvantages for others. Our founding fathers are the epitome of American integrity. Washington is popularized by Americans as a soldier for good, the victor against all odds, and he has laid the basis for our conception of war, victory, and glory in the present day. The destruction of war is evident in the following painting. As two men run for cover below, bombs are dropped on a train station and a factory, leveling all in their path. Though a painting, this image serves well to illustrate the harsh realities and atrocities of war that are often overlooked in favor of more heroic narratives. One of the most pervasive notions about American history is our renown and glory in war. While some wars have been fought for righteous causes, the government has glossed over the more devastating aspects of war: loss of innocence, of stability, and of life and limb. The depredations of war have been spun into celebrated narratives of liberating humanity from many varieties of evil. Our past triumphs have often served as a rallying cry for intervention in foreign conflicts. Wars can have moments of righteousness and glory, but they are not synonymous. For the concluding section of the exhibit, I included these two pieces by Susan Père-Meisel, whose colorful works exude celebration. They show Washington, D.C. in its best light, despite the sometimes reprehensible activities occurring inside the buildings shown here. Those outside celebrate based on the optimistic belief that the unseen internal happenings are for the greater good. The telling of American history is often fictionalized, and in learning of the successes and triumphs of our nation, there has been a temptation to gloss over our indiscretions. In trying to conceal our mistakes, we have generated an optimistic mythology of our actions and intentions. My exhibition ends with this notable alteration to the flag by William Nelson Copley that urges the American people to learn their history, to recognize wrongs, and to simply think. To conclude, the images on the left portray a different America than the images on the right. In considering these contrasts, we are able to find a new way of looking at certain traditional narratives, and this can furnish a more complex view of history. The subsections were chosen because they all encompass an important aspects of our nation's storytelling. Art and images can tell stories that subvert easy ways of thinking about America. When history is neglected or rejected, it is more difficult to redress the errors of the past. The story of America is not always a story of progress, and to create a fantasy of consistent virtue and perfection is to impede real advancement. Somewhat ironically, Richard Nixon had an excellent quote on understanding both sides of history. "If you want to make beautiful music, you must play the black and white notes together." A truthful narrative can only come from looking at all sides. More than that, a new manner of thinking may enable us to recognize wrongs and act against them, effectively disrupting the mythology and lending greater veracity to America's epithet, the land of the free.